Testing. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay, 3 more minutes. Okay, so let's start with Japan. As you can see from this thing, can you see from this thing? Okay, from this chart that I did just now, Japan. Okay, so there's a few factors for Japan. Okay, just to recap again, how this led to war, or why these things happen. Okay, so the two type of question they can ask you is number one, a why type of question. Okay, the main thing is to link back the main argument that of this topic, the main issue, not argument, sorry, issue of this topic is outbreak of war, right? Okay, that's the main argument. So one way they can ask you is through this, the other way they can ask you through a why question. Okay, so for why, take note, you must look at the outcome, look at the question outcome, right? Why they created this policy, why did they expand, right? So your policy outcome will be they expand because once you get all these territories, you can get the resources needed to fuel your military machine. Okay, or if they ask you why is there a crisis, or why this, why that. Okay, so that's the why part. So let's generically overview of this thing again. So US relations worsened in 1920s. Two things. First is this, racial segregation. So that's the first part. Okay. Worsened because the Japanese people, Japanese immigrants in the US were being excluded. Okay. I think it's quite straightforward. You can read this thing yourself. So second thing is unfairness. Okay, I will call this unfairness. Okay, I will call this mistreatment. This racial segregation, I will call it mistreatment. And this Prince Kono thing at the Paris Peace Conference, I'll call it straight up racism and unfairness, because they were not treated well, they were not treated properly, and this appeal was rejected. Along with this, Washington Naval Conference, again, another instance of unfairness. The levels they will keep is 5-3 as compared to what the West will keep. So as such, Japan felt. Okay, this part is your explanation. Okay, I need 2 to 3 lines of this. Japan felt disrespected, embarked on expansion in order to be recognized as a world power. So that's not the end. If your outcome is war, it must lead to this. Here's your big outcome. So before this arrow points downwards here, right, all this unfairness, all this racism, discrimination, segregation, all led to Japan feeling disrespected, and they felt they needed to get back their respect in order to be recognized. So how do they do this? They do this, right, that's why there's an arrow pointing here. They did this by changing the government. Yes, they took out the present government, they changed it to one of militarism. They supported militaristic governments because the militaristic governments wanted to expand, can help them to expand, and that's what they did. Yes, they went to Korea, Taiwan, Manchuria, in which, and Southeast Asia as well. So in Southeast Asia, in which striking Pearl Harbor was necessary because number one, trade embargo. Right, the US saw that Japan was already expanding and hence wanted to limit the ability of the Japan by limiting the trade, especially of oil. So hence they need to go to Southeast Asia to find the oil, and they also need to attack Pearl Harbor in order to cripple, important cripple the US Pacific Fleet, so that they cannot retaliate when Japan eventually goes into Southeast Asia. Okay, yes, it should be moving. It's moving fine. Okay, so that's the thing. So this yellow part, I highlighted this for a reason, because this part is your explanation. Okay, this part, very crucial, and hence because of this led them into direct conflict with the US. Hence it led them to the US declaration of war, which led to war in Asia Pacific. Okay, so another one, crisis in Japan. This is even more straightforward, right? Overpopulation, shortage of land, housing, food. Furthermore, like this man here with the wheat not growing, right? Farming methods are weak and slow. Great Depression. Okay, this one you must elaborate. I only wrote a little bit. How Great Depression affects Japan, such that the nations, Western nations, will all have protectionism. They want to protect themselves, buy their own products, and not invest in Japanese exports, resulted in Japanese exports falling, resulting in a loss of jobs. So all these things created a lot of demand for things that they don't have, like housing, goods, products, resources, and for citizens to relocate and find new land where they can survive. Yes, so because of this, again, support from militaristic government that led to further expansion so that their needs can be met. Okay, which led to eventual invasion of Pearl Harbor due to the trade embargo and due to the need to cripple the US Pacific Fleet, which resulted in US declaration of war. Okay, so same thing. Now, expansion policy, if you want to focus just on this, you talk about trade and oil trade, right? You want to expand because you don't want to rely on trade anymore because it's expensive to trade with other country. Why don't you just invade them and get their money? Okay, so harder to obtain resource due to Great Depression. So same thing, Great Depression again. So they want to get the things here: Taiwan sugar, Korea cotton, Manchuria, to defend Korea for minerals and for living space. Okay. So hence they needed to expand, and when they expand, they came out with the plan. Plan to get equality, plan to get recognition, plan to get all these things. And early military success, right here, early military success, land acquisitions, encourage them to expand further, and that's when they embark on the Greater East Asia Coast Prosperity Sphere, which in reality, the objective was to expel European colonial powers, right? What they told people is, we are going to do Asia for Asians, we are going to give you back your land, but in reality, they are just making use of them, exploiting the economic gains from these places so that they can build up their military machine more. And if they ask you how this led to war, then you say, come back here again. Thus, all these acts led to the rise of militarism, which led to further expansion, which brought them into direct conflict with the US through the invasion of Pearl Harbor due to trade embargo and the need to cripple the US Pacific Fleet, leading to US declaration of war. Yes, so that's how it goes. So weakness of LN, same thing. Talk about the Manchurian crisis. What is it? Right, Mukden incident. It happened due to the Mukden incident where a bomb exploded. They blame it on Chinese nationalists. They use it as an excuse to invade the whole of Manchuria. LN didn't do anything, but they commissioned together at a place I can't remember where, and they created the Lytton Report, which condemned Japan. Okay, as a result, Japan left. Here, right, Japan left the league, and hence they're not bound anymore by the league, which make them encouraged, emboldened to expand, knowing that the league will not stop them and do anything because they're weak, right? Knowing that reputation of the league has gone down. Yes, so then you include this as well, Second Sino-Japanese War. This one is Marco Polo Bridge incident, minor skirmish, that means minor fighting going on near the Marco Polo Bridge, which led to a full-scale invasion of China, which as one of the soldiers was missing, and the Japanese blamed the Chinese again for capturing a Japanese soldier on Japanese territories in China, in Manchuria. So hence, Chinese appeal again, LN ineffective, because allies occupied with Hitler, and thus Japan felt encouraged, emboldened to expand, knowing LN will do nothing. And thus, this led to support for the militaristic government, blah, 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 which led to attack of Pearl Harbor, which was necessary in order to cripple the US Pacific Fleet, and this indirectly led to the US declaration of war. So that's how it goes for Japan. So, your 8-mark question, I need you to have 2 paragraphs. Okay? Please explain these 2 paragraphs well. It's very important. Okay, 1 paragraph per point. 1 paragraph per point. Make it clear. Now, 12-mark question. Level 2 is an explanation level. Okay, just to recap. Level 2 is explain one factor. That means you explain one of the factor well. Okay? And this is how many marks? This is 3 to 6 marks. Okay, meaning that you explain one factor well. We will give you 3 to 6 marks. Okay, what does this mean? This means that if you don't have an explanation, you won't even get the 3 marks. Yes. So after you write your details, don't forget to give me how do you get this 3, how do you secure this 3. I need at least 2 to 3 lines of explanation. Yes, 2 to 3 lines of explanation. That means 2 to 3 lines of how you link to the outcome. Okay, that means if it's outbreak of war in Europe, right, the outcome will be outbreak of war in Europe. That means how you link everything to Poland, right? So you must say that with each territory that Hitler get, he become bolder, right? Or with each territory that Hitler gets, not only does he get bolder, but he also gets more resources, and he grows his military. Okay, and when you do this, right, you are encouraged. You are encouraged to expand further, and when you expand further, eventually he expanded to reach Poland, and Poland was the last straw because Poland was the thing that broke the what agreement? Poland broke the Munich Agreement, right, and led to declaration of war. So you see, this part, yes, this part is an explanation. It is not telling me the example, the details. It's telling me how your examples, your details eventually led to the incident of Poland. 2 to 3 lines at least. If you can give more, give more. But these lines must be present in order for you to hit this 3 marks. Okay, same with your test, right? The other one question is the why. Anytime you see why policy enacted. If it asks you like this, why is certain policies enacted? Okay, the outcome is no longer about outbreak of war. Now the outcome is about why you do certain policies, and why people do policies is because they want to achieve positive outcomes, right? So you must link your points to the positive outcomes. Yes, example, appeasement. Why appeasement? Because appeasement okay, what's the positive outcome of appeasement? To avoid war. Yes, so because he did this, they do this of appeasement, right? This eventually led to Hitler being satisfied, right? Their initial thoughts was that by doing all these things, you can appease Hitler as he will be satisfied. Yes, in that things will turn out fair for him now, and because of this, he will not start to invade other countries anymore. And when you don't invade other countries anymore, that's when you can achieve your goal of appeasement, which is to make sure that there's no war. So 2 to 3 lines, 2 to 3 lines or more of this part linking to your outcome. If it's why question, I want you to link to positive outcome. Okay, if it's why, it can also be linking to negative outcome. So you must look at the question. If they ask you why appeasement failed, for example, then negative outcome, right? 2 to 3 lines of things explaining how your factor resulted in a total failure, right? How did misjudgment of Hitler lead to a total failure of the LN? How did the Abyssinia crisis lead to a total failure of the LN? 2 to 3 lines, 2 to 3 lines. Make sure you have this very clear thing. If not, if you don't have those 2 to 3 lines, you will not get this. Okay, so as you can see, there's a range, right? From 4 to 6, there's a range. How do you get this? This depends on your number of examples. It's how well you do your examples of your main factor and how well you elaborate them. Okay, for a very well elaborated one, then you can get 6. Okay, if it's not that well, you'll get around 4. Okay, but the trick is, as long as you have these 2 to 3 lines for 2 different factors, right, then you can skip this level already. You can go to level 3. Okay, and level 3 starts at 7, right? 7.12 is not too bad already. So make sure you have 2 paragraphs, 2 clear points. You have these 2 to 3 lines of explanation linking to the outcome that the question asks you to link to. Okay, whether is it outbreak of war or positive outcome or a negative outcome. Make sure it links. Okay, look back and answer again. So that's how you hit the 7 marks, and that is what I want you to hit, these 7 marks. Okay, I hope that I'm very clear on this. 8 marks, same thing. Okay, 8 marks not so strict. 8 marks, 1 paragraph, well explained. You already get 5, 5 to 6. So they are quite generous with this. If you don't have time, this part of the question, 8 mark question, give me 1 paragraph, well explained, 5 to 6 marks, elaborate details, 2 to 3 lines, linking to the outcome. I cannot emphasize this enough. 2 to 3 lines or more, linking to the outcome. And it must be clear, okay? Close gaps. Read your answer again. Are there any gaps that you did not close? Okay, you are a salesman. You want to tell me that this thing benefits you, you must close all the gaps and tell me how it can benefit me. Okay, so that is for the essay. Okay, I'm going to stop streaming a while so I can save this video first and then I can do the SVQ. So stop first, take a break.